I'm your host, William Beem. Welcome to the Photo Flunky Show, episode number 8. Today's topic, Lightroom organization. You're doing it wrong. Thanks for joining the Photo Flunky Show. You can find us at photoflunky.com. Also now available on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. There's links at photoflunky.com. Show notes are available at williambeem.com/episode 8. All right, today let's talk about Lightroom organization. And there's really two main things that you want from organizing your photos in Lightroom. This is not going to delve into any of the post-processing, book creation, maps, or any of that stuff. All this is about today is organization. And all you really want, the benefits from organization, is to save time and find the photos that you want when you want them. Sounds simple. It's what everybody needs when you're busy working on something. You don't want to have to fight your organizational system. You want it to work for you. So let's start off with some of the classic organization mistakes that people make with Lightroom. Keep in mind that Lightroom was designed to organize your photos. I know that sounds like a redundant concept to talk about, but sometimes there are people that just don't trust Lightroom. They don't want to let it do what it was designed to do, and they try to override it with their own techniques and force that upon Lightroom, and honestly, that's usually what gets them into a lot of trouble. But Lightroom knows how to extract data from your image files. You don't need to duplicate the effort. Here are some of the mistakes that people make. Number one, they create elaborate folder structures. You don't need a big, elaborate folder structure. Number two, they use dates in the file name or folder. That information gets embedded into your image file. Every time you click the shutter, you've got a clock inside of your camera. You set that to the right time. It's in there. You don't need to duplicate it. Number three, you don't need to use multiple catalogs. There are certain exceptions to that. For example, I've got friends in the wedding industry. Every time they've got a client for a wedding, they will come up with a separate catalog that has all the templates that they want in there for all the things that they're going to do with the books and smart catalogs and stuff like that. That makes perfect sense for a client. And the same would be true if you do client work in other fields as well. Because after you're done with that client, you want to save that catalog offline someplace else, and you're not going to look at it again until the client comes back and says, I'd like more photos, please. But for your average, ordinary Lightroom needs, your own personal art or things that you're working on for yourself, you don't need multiple catalogs. Number four, misunderstanding the point of flags, stars, and color labels. People use these for all sorts of things. Later on in the episode, I'll tell you what I use them for, and hopefully that'll work out for you. Let's keep in mind the best organizational systems are simple systems. In my case, I have a simple 3-part system. Folders store. Metadata defines, and collections are nothing more than temporary buckets. It's that simple. So let's go down and take a look at each of these in turn. All right, I mentioned before you want to keep your folders rather simple. Decide where you want to store your photos. It could be on an internal drive or an external drive. I keep mine on a RAID array under the root a root folder called Pictures. My catalog goes in there. Under that, I've got a few folders that store all of my photos. And those are personal, travel, portraits, events, and one called graphics. That's not necessarily for photos that I take, but those are for graphical elements that I might use. Lightroom's there to organize images for me. May as well organize the ones I use either as downloaded as stock photos or as web elements, whatever the case may be. Those are what goes in the graphics. Do I need that many? No. There is absolutely nothing wrong with storing every photo you have under the root photo and letting Lightroom manage them. That's what it does. One of the things you're going to be told from most people who are going to recommend Lightroom to you is, you've got to use collections. Personally, I detest collections. Collections are weak. There are only 2 reasons why you need to use a collection in Lightroom. One is to create a target collection, and we'll discuss that in a little bit. The other is for Lightroom Mobile Sync. If you want to sync to Lightroom Mobile, you need to have your photos in a collection. Target collections are actually a wonderful little tool, and you can only have one target collection. Mine is quite simply named Target. That way I always know what it is. And when you set up a target collection, you can be looking through your photos in folders, you can be looking at another collection, whatever you do. And every time you hit the keyboard with the letter B, it adds that photo to the target collection. It's a wonderful way to go choose the photos you want to work on with a project. So for example, if you're going to lay out a book, if you're going to lay out a presentation or your portfolio or something like that, it lets you search through existing photos and put them in a collection that you're going to use in a project. So that way you don't have to juggle different collections or folders or anything else. Everything's right there for you to use. Once you're done using it, you don't need to keep those photos in that target collection anymore. There's no value to it. Basically, other than target collections and Lightroom Mobile Sync, collections are optional. You don't need it for tethering. You don't need it for any of the other features inside of Lightroom. There are two types of collections you can have. I'm sure you probably already know this. Regular collections, you just place the photos in there manually. Smart collections are really nothing more than a saved search. You can search on metadata to build your collection of images, and some of that metadata is embedded inside of your files, and the rest is something you provide. Smart collections need you to do the work anyways before they can make it seem to be simple. So what metadata should you be using? My honest opinion is keywords are your friend. And I've got fellow photographers who don't use keywords at all. Personally, I think they're a bit nuts. Keywords work very well to define everything you need to do and then allow you to search for your photos later that you can put into a collection or a smart collection or use for a target collection. Basically, you cannot search on a collection, but you can search on a keyword. And that's where the flexibility comes in. The more definition you give to your photo with keywords, the more flexibility you have to come back later on and find those photos for whatever you need. Think about organization, the difference between collections and keywords. For collections can go inside of a collection set. They cannot go in each other. Collection sets can go in collection sets. So in other words, you can have a hierarchy of a collection set nested in a collection set, nested in a collection set. And in the first collection set, there's a collection. So it seems like a lot of layers just to get to that one collection. The same thing is kind of true with keywords. You can have a hierarchy there. The idea behind the hierarchy is you don't have a whole lot of clutter, either in your collection sets or with your keywords. Mine, I've got limited to just a few at the top level. I've got people, places, travel, and description. For example, description are some of those keywords that I want to use. Maybe it's not the subject. Maybe the subject is the place that I was, and the description is sunset. Maybe the subject was a person I was taking a portrait, but I want to have something in there about the eyes or about the dress. Those are descriptive elements of the subject. It's kind of hard to do that with collections. You can't really, I suppose you could give yourself a lot of different collections and then drag the photos into it. But isn't it much nicer just to type in keywords once and drag it over a whole bunch of photos? It works better. If you've never made a keyword hierarchy before, don't worry. I've got a set that I've been using for years, back when I was in Apple's Aperture, and then now using in Lightroom. I will post that on the show notes at williambeam.com/episode 8. All right, we said we were going to talk about flags, stars, and color labels. Let me put this out there the way I use them. Flags are really a yes-no indicator. I use flags when I'm going through a list of photos trying to decide, do I like it or not? And you don't want to think about it too much. You just think like, that's yes, that's no. It's either got a flag or doesn't have a flag. So you don't even have to worry about the no part. Everything is no until you turn a flag on. Basically, a flag is a pick. It allows you to say, I'm selecting this for some reason. Color labels I use to indicate workflow. It's pretty simple for me. Purple, everything starts off in purple. Those are photos that are to be reviewed. Inside of that, once I go through and review the photos that are in purple, that's where the flags come into place. If I like it, I hit a flag. If I like it, I hit a flag. If I don't like it, well, no need to worry about it. The next color label is to be processed. I can do a quick search on everything that has a flag and then mark it yellow. Those are the photos that I know that I want to process. And the reason I do it in this way is because I don't necessarily do everything from start to finish all in one setting. I may want to review images, or basically, let me take that a step back. I may want to load my images and then step away from the computer. Then I'll come back another day, and this day could be, a few days later, or it could be a couple of months later. Then I'm going to review, all right, do I want to process these or not? Which ones do I want to process? The ones that I decided are going to be processed, yellow. After I've processed them, if I like it, it's green. It's a keeper. If I don't like it, I can either put it back in or leave it in yellow to be processed and start all over again, or I can put it in red, which to me is rejected. I've changed my mind. It's no longer a keeper. So if it's green, it's a keeper. Blue, it's portfolio worthy. Blue, you don't want to have many of them, but those are your best ones. And the greens, of course, are the ones you're going to rotate in and out of your portfolio as your whims change, or as you take better photos and they become your portfolio. You might want to pull something out. It goes from blue back down to green. And that's really the workflow. Anything that's red that's rejected, obviously you're going to go ahead and delete that. Anything that's fuzzy, blurry, or just doesn't meet your criteria of quality, you may as well mark it red and be done with it. Now, as for star ratings, ignore them. Unless you've got some other workflow that you want to do with, what good does it do you? If you think of star ratings as a quality indicator, your best are going to be your 5s. Your next to best are going to be your 4s. And if it's not a 4 or 5, who cares about the 1, 2, or 3? Those are mediocre ones. You may as well go ahead and mark those red and delete them anyways. On to collections and smart collections. To me, these are best used as temporary placeholders. They have a purpose. You're going to be working on your photos in different projects, such as I said, creating books, creating layouts. But once you've created that layout, you're going to save the book and the layout if you need it, but you don't need to save the container that you used to bring the images into it. All you really need is a place to put your images, to put them in that little container to use on your project. And once that's done, you don't need the bucket anymore. It's a sorting bucket, nothing more. Why have this long row of collections out there? If you want to find your photos, keywords are your friend. As I said before, you cannot search on collections or collection sets. Metadata is how you search. Collections and collection sets are just temporary buckets. Some people have used them in kind of a lazy way. They keep all these collections down on the side, and they've got to scroll up and down this lengthy list of collections. Here's my vacation from 2010. Here's my other vacation from 2010. Ooh, here's from the time that I went over to Georgia. Nobody cares. You don't need to see those all the time. If you want to find your photos from when you went to Georgia, open up your keyword list, click on the hierarchy that you've got there, look at travel, look at the country if you've got multiple countries, look at the states. Whatever it is, get to there and just type in, you can work it down to get to Georgia. Or much more simply, you can go up to the metadata bar, click on text, and type in Georgia. Next thing you know, everything you've got tagged with Georgia shows up there. And you can narrow that down. So instead of all the searchable fields, you can make it just your keywords, and you can stack those together, and you can make a saved search out of them with a smart collection just to find the ones that you want to. Keywords are searchable. Collections are a waste of space. As I said, organization should be nice and simple, and that's what I hope I've shared with you today. I'm sure some people are going to agree with me and some people are going to disagree with me. That's okay. Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you go to williambeem.com/episode 8, there's a comment section there. Let me know what you think. I'll be happy to use that on another show. Thank you for listening to the Photo Flunky Show. As I said, show notes are available at williambeem.com/episode 8. You can also find a transcript of the show there for free. I'm William Beem, and let's be honest, it wouldn't hurt you to subscribe on iTunes. It's easy. Just go to williambeem.com/iTunes, find the show, and I'd love your honest rating review. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.